Hello, folks. It's Stephen here. Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, or a quick hello on the audio. I'm gonna make sure my audio is working before we get going. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you see me? Good. Thank you. All right, perfect. So thanks a lot for joining the webinar today. We're going to get through, I'm just looking at the title slide here is the wrong title slide, but let me fix that shortly. Today we're going to get through, make sure I have the right slides up here. That was a bad start when you have the wrong slides. Yeah, perfect. The script integration engine. So I appreciate you guys that I'm just watching. There's a few others joining right now. So we'll get going in just 1 minute. So this is the third in our series, in our webinar series on the new V7.2 features. The first week we covered the config integrity check. That was a good webinar. Last week we had our hiccup week, and then last week we covered the policy compliance engine updates. That was really good. And so this week we're going to cover the script integration engine, which technically is a version 7 feature. There's been some improvements on it in recent releases. So this is the interesting one. This is the feature that really expands rConfig beyond standard kind of NCM features and capabilities. So I think we're 6 minutes after, so I'm going to get into it. I don't expect this to be a particularly lengthy webinar today. We'll get through a couple of things. The interesting concept about the script integration engine is that it's a really simple feature with a huge amount of potential and potential complexity. But to actually implement it in rConfig is pretty simple. So what is it? What is the script integration engine? It's the ability to bring custom code to rConfig in a language of your choosing. And I'll get more into that idea and concept, but if you're a Python scripter, if you like Bash, if you're an expect scripter, whatever it is you prefer, you can bring that code to rConfig for the purpose of downloading and backing up configurations. It allows you to develop your own custom order of operations. And I'll talk about operations in just a minute here, but allow you to build your custom order of operations and bring that output, whatever the result is, back to rConfig. And the reason you might want to bring it back to rConfig is to wrap it in the features of rConfig, like diff and compliance and search and other features. And that's the third point here. When you have that output from your script back as a config file in rConfig, it allows you to, as I said, leverage the rest of the features in rConfig as if it was any output, which is really kind of powerful. NCMs, it's language I'm using a little bit lately on demo calls and different discussions. NCMs are somewhat plagued by the fact that we rely on protocols and experiences that were designed for human interactivity. And what I mean by that is SSH and not so much those protocols themselves, but the shells and the prompts and different things that various vendors, and you guys are nodding, hopefully kind of going, yeah, nobody's talking about Fortinets are one way, Cisco's are another way. I've got that Avaya switch down the back of the, data center that I can't even remember how to log into it, right? And so there's all these crazy devices with crazy shells and different things. And that's all fine if it was just humans logging into those devices all day, every day, but it's not, right? And NCMs are required to do the work of humans using these protocols and interfaces. And so NCMs, just like rConfig, have to build an order of operations, and then using, in our case, templates, we have to kind of disrupt or interrupt or change the order of operations depending on the remote device that we're trying to connect to and back up. And that's all well and good. And then after how many years am I doing rConfig? Nearly 15 years of doing rConfig, you come across these crazy devices. I mentioned Avaya is one of them. We're going to touch on one or two as well today. That an NCM just has difficulty backing up. Now, I'm going to do one thing here. I'm going to turn off Bluetooth on my phone because I know it interrupts my headset. And so when you come across those crazy devices, you really have two choices. One, you hack the NCM or config order of operations to make it work. And sometimes those hacks can be pretty ugly, and you don't want to put those hacks in the code base. Sometimes they're elegant, and we do put them in. And other times we have to reach for something else. And that's what the script integration engine is for us, is something else. But the script integration engine is a feature that not only gave us another mechanism by which to log in and code up, because we all like code, right? We all like getting in, tinkering around, building something good. But it gave us the possibility to go beyond the network. I'll talk about that in a moment as well, to go beyond the network. But yeah, we all like coding up, right? We all like building a script or two and getting it to work and different things. And that, rConfig, we recognize that as well, right? Because we're hardcore techies as well, right? And we like to code things up, and we don't want to take that from our users and customers. So this is a really nice way to leverage the good work you've done in the past, but integrate it into rConfig and give you some ability to continue the good work around Python scripting or expect scripting or bash scripting or whatever it is, and then really bring it into a sustainable solution. Okay, perfect. So one or two more quick slides. What happens when NCMs start to attempt to configure and back up the network and extract stuff can sometimes get really ugly, right? Because just that basic, simple task of connecting to a device, interpreting what's sent back to us, then attempting to understand that and send it back when a human is doing it, it's fine. Our brains are powerful enough to interpret and make decisions and course correct on that path of configuration management all day long. When you attempt to do it in code in an autonomous type manner, it can become real ugly real quick. So that's where the script integration engine comes in. It just gives us more power over the order of operations. So one or two more things. As I said, lovely array of languages here. We actually don't care what language it is at all. And I'll demonstrate this in a moment. Any language on your terms, but you are responsible. You are responsible for the script. You are responsible for the code. We expect you to behave responsibly. I will go through that in a moment. But it actually doesn't matter. As long as rConfig can reference the binary which runs the script, you can code it up with anything you like, which is really cool. So then when we talk about the network, when you're so you've got NCM, SSH and Telnet, standard CLI interfaces, Cisco being the kind of standard that network engineers are used to. And then you bring this kind of powerhouse of any script in any language on your terms. It brings new use cases and discussions I've been having with customers, new and old, over the last 6 months since introducing this feature have really been around, can I bring this to new types of networks? Can I bring this into the OT network? Can I bring this into the IoT network? Can I bring this into my manufacturing network? It's like, that's really interesting. So the use cases that have evolved in a very short period of time, and maybe some of you guys can take some of these ideas away. NCM, we've now taken NCM as a strict network, SSH, Telnet, Cisco, Fortinet, checkpoint all day long, to it's okay. We can go way outside the standard IP-based network, right? It's all IP-based, but we can move beyond the kind of standard routing, switching, security perimeter. And so, a couple of examples for you. We've got an advertising company in France, a very well-known international advertising company, that have billboards all over the world. Um, they use a device called Digi. They're 5G telemetry devices on all of these billboards. They had difficulty backing them up in the past. They're now backing up 3,500 of them globally using the script integration engine. And it's a single script that just runs for all of the devices every single day and downloads the output it needs from various files. I'll demonstrate this in a moment. And where we have other customers, one who is active, others who are looking into spawning new instances of rConfig specifically for their manufacturing environments. We're talking about SCADA units, PLC units on the manufacturing floor, and units that would have previously been managed and backed up by some Unix server in the back of the data center that nobody really knew how to manage, but don't touch it, leave it alone. Bringing those scripts over and the binaries over to the rConfig server, and now they've got a consolidated, sustainable solution using rConfig on those environments. So fascinating use cases evolving. Oh, I see Gary. I'm just going to let Gary in. Perfect. Fascinating use cases evolving out, as I said, outside of the traditional IP network. Now, I hope it's just on my screen. The screen is flashing and my audio and video is coming across okay. So that's it. With all that said, I'm going to get into a demo and show you how this feature works. Now, I've got to ask the question because I am seeing flashes and I know I have one or two Bluetooth issues. Is my audio and video coming across okay? Thumbs up. Hopefully it is. It is good. Okay, thank you. I feel better. Because it's one of those confidence things. It's like, well, if it's not, I got to do something about it. But if it is, good. Happy days. All right, perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through. Now, they're pretty simple use cases, right? But a couple of use cases. So what I'm going to do is talk you through the setup of the script integration engine. I want to go through one or two T's and C's. It's really important because it's a really powerful feature. And then we're just going to get into some code and we're going to look at how this works, both in the user interface and on the CLI. So the first thing to know, and we're gonna go over to the rConfig docs just here for a minute. So if I go to docs.rconfig.com, if I go to, I can do something cool here. No, hopefully I should move and reduce. Yeah, that's better. Perfect. Okay, less of me, more of the screen. So if I go to set integration, script integration engine, there's three important docs here, right? There's the script integration overview doc. We're out of beta, actually. We can update this pretty soon. Which kind of just outlines what I mentioned just in the last few minutes, right? Again, we'll update this in the next week or two. It's not beta, it's a fully supported feature. There is a notice to developers. It's pretty light. It's our T's and C's around this feature. You're going to put scripts on a server that really require a level of expertise, good development practice, maybe even some security testing, definitely testing in your environment, but that's outside the scope of rConfig, and I'm saying it now, and I will say it forevermore. The scripts are your responsibility. Be careful about using them and what's in them, who gets access to them, and how they're used. All of you know and you're aware that you own the rConfig server, you operate it, we have no access and all that. As long as all of the correct security parameters and architectures in place, you should be safe. But that caution and warning is there, okay? As I say that in a very stern, strong voice. So keep that in mind. Perfect. So in terms of setup of the feature itself, you can't just run a script in rConfig. You do. So I know with who's on the webinar today, you'll all be familiar with how to get in and edit the .env file and do various things. So you have to do that. You have to go in If I just turn on my mouse highlighter, you do have to add this feature flag in the .env file and then do an rConfig clear all. And that will allow scripts then to run, okay? So just keep that in mind. We can parameterize the scripts. There's one required parameter, the others are optional. And there's a process by which you develop the script. I'm going to use the word kind of offline, but you develop the script using parameters and then integrate it afterwards. And I'll show you this flow in just a moment. You deploy the script to the server. And remember what I said about the binaries. As long as the binary is on the box, you can call the script. If the binary is not there, that script will not work, okay? So if you're Linux capable and savvy, you know you should be able to how to, one, install your binaries. So if you're installing Python or Node.js or expect or whatever it is, a quick Google, you'll figure that one out. And then how to find the path is usually which is a good command to be able to find the path for a binary. You can see an example here. Which expect tells me where expect is. We'll reuse this in a moment. And then the scripts get deployed to a specific location in the scripts directory. Okay. You can, if you wish, develop in this directory, and you can, if you wish, commit this directory to your own Git repo, if you wish. You may want to develop it somewhere else and drop them in. That's your choice. And the final, I suppose, a couple of more quick steps. Again, I'll go through all these in a moment. Adding a connection template. There's a very specific type of connection templates. You'll all be familiar with connection templates, right? But there's a very specific, simple type of one. It's a new one, and the protocol is script. And it basically says, not SSH or Telnet, this one we're calling a script. Okay? And it's a different part of the logic in the backend code of rConfig. Adding a command, I go through that shortly. This is basically what calls the script with the parameters. You can see an example here. I'm just rushing through it and see it in a moment. There's an example script here. And then you add your device and run your tests, okay? So that's the docs. So let's see it. Let's see it. So my demo server here, I hope you can see this okay. I think it looks okay. Let me zoom in a touch. My demo server here, that these were the actual devices that were responsible, let's say, for this feature in the beginning, these Radware ADCs, Radware Altions, they're called. They're like poor man's F5. And in these particular Radwares, their equivalent command to show runs called cdump. We'll see this in a moment. And there was a particular part of the cdump that required you to respond yes or no to a prompt, and we couldn't get past it. We could not, and we spent hours on it, could not get past it. And we can do yes, no prompts all day long on all sorts of vendors and CLIs and different things. We just couldn't do this one. So the guy in the Council of Europe came back to us and said, I've got an expect script that works. Can we use that? And so we tried it, and that was the genesis for this feature. So in this Radware ADC, this is part of the Radware category 1 group. Let's have a quick peek at the commands for that. And we're running a few commands here, right? So you will see, recall the binary first. We put in the script path, which is kind of hard coded. So we may remove this at some point, but look, it is what it is for now. We call the script and we send in the parameters. That's it. So what happens is and I'll show you the outcome and then I'll reverse engineer it. When I do a download for the Radware ADC, it basically looks at the template and says, this is of type script. It then looks at the commands and then invokes each script in turn. Just the command that you saw. The parameters are replaced with the IP address and credentials as set in the device itself. So if you were backing up 10 of them, it would change obviously for each device. And then if I just do refresh on the latest downloads, we've got 1, 2, 3 outputs. If I do my new peak function, and here we have the cdump output for this particular device. Let me have a look at 1 or 2 others. So this is the system current output, and this is the sys management, I think, output. Okay, so very similar experience to rConfig normal, which is multiple commands per category, run It will download for a device, run each command, get the output, save it. And then, of course, that means, I wonder, will I get a version increase now if I won't actually. I know the way this is being backed up, none of the text will change, so we won't see a diff, but you get the point. You can do diffs if there's changes. I will show you a diff in a moment, actually. You can do compile. All of the rConfig features are wrapped around this then, because we have the output. Let's have a look at the script. Okay, so here I think I can zoom in on this too, can I? Oh, hopefully it's okay. Oh, there is a way to zoom in this, and I know what it is. Perfect. Okay, so this is the expect script that we're using. Right? So when we call the expect binary, apologies, giving you a good view of this. When we call the expect binary, then we call the script, and then we insert some parameters. So I'll just talk you through the script very simple. I'm not an expert on expect. I know how this one works. I've had to develop a couple of others for Zyxel scripts and different things. I'll show you that in a moment. This one particularly, so this just captures the three arguments. This one particularly then, and some of you may have experienced this, where you've got older ciphers on some of your equipment. rConfig will connect to almost all cipher levels because it doesn't use the operating system's SSH, it uses its own. But again, in this particular case, we can get very specific on the SSH configuration. We can set timeouts, we expect certain prompts. This was the prompt that killed us actually in the beginning when we had this issue, right? Expect could respond to it for some reason. And as I said, we can do yes, no prompts all day. Our code wouldn't. So this was the solution. And we just go through the rest of it. Do our C dump, get our yes, no, script end, set timeouts as we need, whatever we need. And basically, whatever this script sends back to us is what we capture. Let me demonstrate that. So if I look here on my CLI, if I'm on the wrong server, but I will come back to that one in a moment. So clear this, and I am going to, because I have it here on another screen, I'm going to cd into storage app, rConfig scripts, ls. I've got a few scripts here, right? The Altion scripts that we saw a moment ago, so they are the three different types of scripts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in more or less what rConfig called, just a slightly shorter version of it, right? I'm not calling the full path of the binary because of the way you log into Linux. Linux kind of already knows where it is. It's more convenient when you call the full path from rConfig. And then we call the script because I'm in that directory. Otherwise, you might have to specify the full path. And that's why rConfig has the script path parameter. And then you just put in your variables. Let me just see. So your IP address, your username and your password. Okay. Let me run this. And so what's happened here is I've just shown you the exact same output that rConfig retrieved and stored as a configuration file. That's all. Now, expect scripts are pretty basic, pretty rudimentary. They don't allow for a lot other than to capture some output. No, I can be corrected on that, but that's my understanding. But this is ideal, especially when you start to think about those odd devices beyond the standard IP network. The 5G, IoT, OT devices, the SCADA units, the PLCs, just the odd kind of CLI interfaces, right? But what I just want to do, just to kind of wrap up the demo, spend 5 minutes on developing a new one, okay? So I have a script in here called linuxscript.py. It's a Python script, okay? This Python script, zoom out a touch, it's pretty simple. It does an SSH. So in this particular case, we're just going to do an output from a Linux server. It's a standard Linux server. We're just going to run an ls command, and we might even swap this out for a few other things we'll see if we get a moment. And there's some timeout things and different error checking and whatnot in here, right? So it's kind of useful. Now, the cool thing about this script, if I was doing this process, I would develop this script on my CLI on any server I want. first. Forget about rConfig, like completely forget about rConfig. You go and you develop your script, okay? And in this case, because I've tested it, I always test my demo stuff mostly, because I tested it. So if I run this script now, it should run the ls command, and actually, if I bring up because of the directory I'm in, we should see the output for this directory, I think. Let's see what happens. So I have now bear in mind, I installed Python on this box. If Python was not on this box, the script won't run. If the binary is available, the script will run. Perfect. Okay, so we got an output. We actually got an output from the main application directory. Not sure why that was. I don't know why that was, because we did call it from the scripts directory. Anyway, we have an output, right? That's the power of this. You build a script on your terms. Okay. If there's an issue like this, go debug it on your terms. And once you have the output you desire or require, then you integrate it in rConfig. So that's actually kind of a good thing to figure out. A few errors here, I'm going to touch on those in a moment. But basically, my script works. Sorry, I know one. Because I SSH'd into this remote server. When I SSH into this remote server, let me show you. By virtue of the fact that I SSH into it, the application I land in, because I have a login script, is the application directory. So when I do an ls in here, that's what I get, okay? Very simple example, but you can do an ls, and then you can do a more, and then you can do other things. You can do anything you want within this script, okay? That's the power of it. But the point is, now that I have a working script, this script now I know is working, okay? So let's get it into rConfig real quick. Let's do a download and let's see what the experience is like. I'm gonna quickly add a new device. Let's see if I have it in here. I do, perfect. I'm gonna select Rocky. I'm gonna select whatever, v9.4. Select Rocky. This is the boring part now for one moment. Username and password is the very creative Stephen and Stephen. And then I'm going to select, I'm just going to select the Altion script. Like it actually doesn't matter. You can have a generic SIE script because they're all the same. There is no difference in the template for the script integration engine. Okay, so I'm just going to select the Altion one. There's no prompt really in this, but I'm just going to fill it because right now it's required on the form. So if I save this, let me just double check. My command group is Rocky Linux. Let's have a look at the command groups, Rocky Linux commands. We have a witch Python for Rocky Linux. Let me add a new command. Again, here's one I prepared earlier. Let's look at this for a moment, right? Seems like you're entering the script as a command. Make sure to read the docs and how to do this before you proceed. So that's our little health warning. So again, we're calling the binary, calling the script path, calling the script. Easy so far. We're inputting the parameters. They do not have to be in this order. There are 4 parameters to choose from. None of them are mandatory. You can choose not to have them if you wish, right? But obviously it's convenient to draw the parameters from the device that's making the call to the remote endpoint. As use cases evolve, we might allow optional parameters in the future, but come to us with your use cases and let's discuss it. Rocky Linux save. Okay, so really the last thing you have to do is just run the download for Lyra and see what happens. There's a witch Python there right away. I'm going to ignore that one for now. That was just a test I did earlier. But now that that's done, let's refresh it. So we have this. I probably should have put in a convenient alternate file name just rather than this kind of junk. But let's do a peek. And we have our output, the exact same as the command line interface that we saw. This means I can do compliance, diff, search, whatever you want on this file, right? I'm going to show you a quick diff, and then I think we can close up on the demo piece. So I'm just going to drop these because I know what these errors are. So I'm actually just going to fix them on Lyra. So there's just a couple of script errors. It doesn't like these commands for some reason. Maria, it doesn't like the LL. When you log in as a certain shell, it's a quirky Linux thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm going to save it. I'm just going to go back and download it again, which means because the config has changed, we'll get our version update, we'll get our email, and we'll get our diff saved to the database. Like super fast as well. I love that. Refresh version 2, view config history, view changes, and we can see our version change, right? So I'm hoping that kind of demonstrates the script integration engine feature. Fairly quite basic, easy for downloading configs, potential for more advanced order of operations. I had a demo call with a customer this morning around around backing up checkpoints and there being a number of steps in that process for checkpoints. Now, it's been a long time since I used checkpoints, but getting some binaries off the box and different things, right? So, when the order of operations becomes complex or the unit on the remote end is a little bit more peculiar in terms of its implementation, the script integration engine is where you should be leaning. Final point from me on that, and then I'll open up to some questions. We're happy to help developing scripts for these. We're not that keen on spending hours testing and troubleshooting scripts. We're hoping you guys, customers all over the world, will have a lot more success developing your own scripts and building that kind of capability yourselves and bringing them onto the server. We will help if we need to. Our expertise is around expect, PHP, Python less so. Ansible we're okay with in different things, but again, that might be more of a professional services ask. But I expect, knowing who I can see on the call, I expect you have expertise in this area to deliver it yourself. So final thought, and that's for downloads right now. We will build a script integration engine feature into snippets that you can invoke a script via a snippet for actual changes, right? It is on the roadmap. 7.3-ish, maybe 7.4, we'll see in the coming months. So perfect. So I hope that was useful. What do you think? Any questions or thoughts on any of that? I might have to put back on the mood music in a second here, just to get the energy levels going. Any thoughts, guys? Any questions? Is it straightforward? Is it straightforward? Is it useful? All right, I'll assume it is. Perfect. Okay, thanks, Carrie. Appreciate it. Okay, well, look, if there's no questions, look, you all know how to reach me. Give it a whirl, as the use cases evolve for you guys in the coming weeks. That's the end of our webinar series for now. We have a new product launching it in October sometime. Our central manager, so we're going to be busy until then developing that, and of course supporting all of y'all. So back to webinars maybe in October, November as 7.3 and new features come out. So thanks a lot for joining, guys. I really appreciate it. Perfect. Thanks, everyone. See y'all.